Hi, I'm Greg. Welcome back to the channel, The Real G-Pops Workshop. In today's brief video, I'm going to show you where I made some modifications to my Ultimate Mobile Table Saw, because you saw the video where I made that, of course. Well, if you haven't, go back and watch that. As you use your tools, there will be some evolution. One thing that has evolved for me is dust collection. Like many of you, I started out using a shop vac of some sort. I've now leveled up the game to use dust collection. So I added a 4-inch port to my mobile workbench, and this video is how I got that done. So stick around, let's check it out. I recently upgraded my dust collection from 16-gallon shop vac to 3 horsepower 1550 CFM dust collection. With that in mind, my mobile table saw is going to need some upgrades. Originally, it was configured so that the dust collection, the 2.5-inch hose would go out the bottom, connect to a shop vac, and that was it. Now what I've decided to do is make some modifications to the side so that I can install a 4-inch dust port with a 2.5-inch reduction, use a shorter piece of hose, and be able to connect magnetically to the new dust collection system. So let's sit back and watch as I make these modifications and see what kind of improvement we get. This is paper thin, so I'll be reinforcing it with a piece I've already cut out, and we'll drill through that. We're going to utilize a little Danish oil. Now it's time to pull out the hole saws. Yeah, Milwaukee will do. Okay, I'm going to do a test fit. To attach the port to the side of the saw, I'm going to drill several holes. I'm going to put a bit of a countersink. And we're about ready to mount. To affix the reinforcement piece, I'm going to place in here. I'm going to utilize screws and construction adhesive. I've pre-cut the piece, put a little Danish oil on it, just so it would match the aesthetics. I'm going to plop that in. Now with our piece secure, we are going to determine roughly where our hole will be cut. Again, this is nothing scientific, so eyeballing it is perfectly fine and acceptable. At this point, I took our original piece, I cut it. What I'm going to do now is place this half upright and then replace this the way it was prior to installing the dust port. What I'm going to do first is drill a pilot hole so that I can secure this with a small screw. Again, we're not being scientific. I did make a mark where this is going to go, but again, eyeballing it is fine. We just want to make sure it's attached securely. So we put a countersink hole in here. I'm gonna line this up just so that I get a pilot hole on a flat surface. So with that, I'm going to glue the screw, and then we're going to attach it back to the base. Okay, so this is where we are in the process. I added an additional piece of 1/8 plywood in this section right here. I took our cross member, as I showed earlier, and I cut it. And then I secured it. So we have some strength in this joint right here. And what I'm going to do now is attach it at these locations. And then I'll be able to utilize this portion as I did prior to adding the dust port. I want the bottom to be flush. Again, it's not scientific. So now I still have my original storage. I can attach my magnetic dust port here. And then we're going to swing around a sec, and I'm going to show you how it's attached to the back. In this shot, you can see where the dust port comes in from the right of the screen, attaches by a short black 2.5-inch hose to the back of the table saw. And at that point, I can attach the MagLink system to the side of the table saw and attach it to the dust collection system. Well, let's see how she does. I'm going to consider that a win. It went on easily. It's aesthetically pleasing. The shop is now much more efficient, and the dust is much less as well. I love the fact that nothing is permanently attached, and I can still move around my shop with ease. So hopefully you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed making it. I just wanted to share the fact that you can build something, and if you think of an idea to improve it, you can circle back and make those improvements and enhance the way you work in your small shop. At some point, I'll probably circle back and show how I made some adaptations for some other equipment in my shop and the actual dust collection system that I'm using. But in the meantime, thank you for your viewership. And if you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. And I'll catch you on the next one.